Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I saw Captain Marvel in the theater, and I already posted my spoiler-free review, but this is the spoiler review. As implied by the name, there will be heavy spoilers for the movie in this video, so if you do not want to be spoiled, I suggest you do leave this video. But yeah, so pretty much we are talking the spoilers for Captain Marvel. So yeah, pretty much the movie does start off, it takes place in 1995, and I think one of the cool things is that it does connect Earth as well as different space worlds that we did see in other Marvel movies, most notably Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think Ronan's appearance is also pretty cool in this movie. He doesn't really do much in this movie, but I think it is a nice little Easter egg. This movie is essentially a prequel of sorts. It includes several returning characters, such as Nick Fury, Phil Coulson, and Ronan the Accuser, and I think that is pretty cool. They're all some minor touches. Secondly, I like the arc of Captain Marvel throughout the movie and learning who she is. I think it's a pretty good idea. I think it was a good idea to actually have her be a human rather than some random alien, and I think that was done nicely. It wasn't like a super amazing, super mind-blowing twist, but it was good enough, you know. Now, the biggest plot twist in this movie would be, of course, what the Skrulls actually are, and it turns out the Skrulls are the good guys and the Kree are the bad guys. And I like this plot twist. It does feel pretty unnatural to me. I mean, I don't really understand why the Skrulls just wouldn't tell Captain Marvel right from the get-go that they were good guys and they didn't really mean any harm. It just didn't really make that much sense to me. Why they were attacking and like why the Skrulls. I mean, I guess perspective is a powerful thing, but the Skrulls were very much portrayed as the bad guys. And I just don't really understand why they did what they did on Earth, even if they were good. But yeah, I think it was a good plot twist, and it kind of makes sense, given that, of course, Ronan is a Kree, and he is a bad guy in Guardians of the Galaxy. So it was pretty cool for the most part. Now, moving on from that, again, this movie had a lot of humor in it, and one of the biggest humor devices in this movie was definitely the cat. And I found that to be funny at times, but also a bit weird. I think it's kind of a bit underwhelming that that's how Nick Fury lost his eye. And I also didn't understand how it was an alien. Like, how did that alien get to Earth? What is it? What else? I wanted to know more about it. Even though it was a very minor thing, I just kind of felt myself like, we didn't really know anything about it. And suddenly it's just some random alien? Okay. And yeah, the post-credit scene, which was really bad, by the way, which just shows the cat pretty much spitting out the Tesseract. Not worth waiting for. But the mid-credit scene was also really cool, and I liked seeing Captain Marvel, even if it was just for like a few minutes, seeing Captain Marvel with our current day characters, and that was pretty cool. Now, on top of that, I do feel like this movie did a lot with space as well, and as I said in the spoiler-free review, it's heavily inspired by Star Wars, at least to me it feels like, especially with the hyperspace jumps and all of that kind of stuff. But it just doesn't really do it as well, necessarily. And, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not as good as Star Wars either. And being a Star Wars fan myself, I definitely prefer that. Now, as Captain Marvel actually got her own powers, as to how that happened, I thought it was a pretty good idea. The Lightspeed engine was, her absorbing the powers of the Lightspeed engine was a pretty good idea for the most part. It wasn't just, some random super suit. And I think I like that, because one of the big problems I have with Marvel movies is the majority of heroes are just some random rich guys who don't really have any powers other than the fact that they have some super crazy, super technologically advanced suit that essentially does everything for them. And, it's really cliched in Marvel at this point. You have Spider-Man, you have Black Panther, you have Iron Man, of course, and I think it's just getting a bit old. But now to talk about the characters themselves, I like the Talos character for the most part. But then again, he is a villain who is revealed to be good. I feel like when he was a villain, I think he was definitely better than when he wasn't. Ben Mendelsohn is a great actor, and he's great at portraying villains. I especially love director Krennic from Rogue One. And he really did feel great when he was a villain. But as with most twist villains who actually end up being good in movies, at least for me, they seem really awesome in the beginning of the movie when they're typically portrayed as a bad guy. And then when they become a good guy, they kind of get a bit more boring. Not saying they're a bad character, but they just kind of get a little bit more boring after that. But as for the actual twist villain in this, that would be Jude Law's character his name was Yon-Rogg, and it wasn't a bad character, but he just kind of needed a bit more. As I said in the spoiler-free review, Captain Marvel was way too overpowered, and that is another thing I'll go ahead into right now. She was just way too overpowered. I mean, there's no other way to really put it. She just had way too many powers, and it was really quite crazy. She's just destroying space fleets like that, just, scaring the Kree fleet to death. Yeah, that's pretty overpowered. And on top of that, there wasn't really a villain who was a match for her, which made the final battle kind of, unclimactic in a way, because we just knew Captain Marvel was going to win. And when Yon-Rogg wants to fight her in the end, she just blasts him. And I guess that was better than a cliched fight where we all knew she was going to win. But, I mean, there was not really a villain who was any match for her. And I feel like she'll probably be the one to defeat Thanos in the end. But yeah, I mean, I do feel like they could have done it a little bit better in making it, a villain who was more suited to actually evenly fight her. But then again, I don't think this movie was as focused on the fight. It was more of a personal story about who she was, and finding that out throughout the movie was, I think, the main storyline. I do feel like the war between the Kree and the Skrulls and, Captain Marvel's involvement in that was kind of a side story, and at least in my opinion, the main story would definitely be her personal story, and I think that to me, that's what definitely shined. There was less crazy superhero action fight, and that's fine, I don't really need a movie full of, fighting and stuff, and, I'm fine with the personal story and the personal arcs, and I think that was done well, too. The character Maria was also cool for the most part, but, I did like her character, but it did feel a bit unnatural in places, such as her, I mean, I get she's an Air Force pilot, but she just went into space, and what's even worse is her daughter just, urged her to go into space, even though she might die, and, it definitely did feel a bit unnatural to me, but I did think she was a fine character, and, this movie was really cool. As I said, it did serve as a prequel of sorts. We got to see the Tesseract, we got to see several characters who we have seen in the MCU before, and it was a pretty good movie, but as I did say, there were some things that just did feel kind of unnatural or a bit forced, and, those would bring the score of the movie down just a little bit. I would probably give this movie an 8 out of 10, but let me know what you guys think down in the comment sections below. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone and everyone you know, and I will see you next time.